Have you ever walked away from someone else's story and somehow it felt like it became your story? Like, I mean, deeply. Maybe you couldn't actually stop thinking about it over and over again. It's in your dreams, it's in your thoughts, every single place you're in, you're constantly thinking about it. Maybe you started feeling quite antsy about it emotionally, sort of numb or even fearful of the story every time you think about it. Even though nothing traumatic has actually happened to you personally. Here's the shocking part from research. You do not have to experience trauma directly for it to affect your mind. Sometimes simply witnessing, hearing, or repeatedly being exposed to another person's suffering can actually change the way you think, feel, and see the world. And it's called vicarious trauma, and many people are actually living with it without even realizing. Now, I want to bring some self-awareness on it today.
Nhom loud, Nhom loud, it's all I need, yeah, it's all I need, yeah.
So what is actually vicarious trauma? Vicarious trauma refers to the psychological changes that occur after a repeated exposure to other people's traumatic experiences. Originally, researchers noticed it within like psychologists, counselors, social workers, paramedics, police officers, nurses, pastors, and emergency responders. But today it goes beyond helping professions, parents, friends, partners, journalists, and content moderators, even people who spend hours consuming like all these distressing news or graphic content online are not exempt from this. Over time, constantly absorbing like other people's sort of pain can begin to start like reshaping your own emotional world. This isn't about weakness or laziness or anything like that. It's how the human brain can actually be wired. Our brains are designed for sort of empathy, to feel, towards, like, have you ever find yourself sometimes, even though this person is lying about this particular traumatic thing or painful thing or whatever it is, somehow your heart knows, wants to actually give empathy, but then some part of you is like, no, but the truth is this person is lying. You see, your mind and your body works in a very funny way. I think we are wired to have empathy for people, but empathy without healthy boundary can become emotionally overwhelming. And so it's something that we often don't talk about, but I wanted to bring it up and for people to have that self-awareness. So when you are repeatedly exposed to these traumatic stories, your nervous system doesn't always kind of like distinguish between actually experiencing it yourself, experiencing the danger, and witnessing the danger. Your brain begins kind of like scanning for threats often. Like, say, for example, a lot of my work does involve me to hear a lot of traumatic stories, like beyond what a sort of a normal common person would hear, like even in a lifetime, or they never hear. And some of the ways that I get support and all of that is through supervision and through other means of professional development and retreats and things like that to help to be able to carry it. But for a sort of quote unquote normal common human population, they do not have that same sort of support. So they hear and see and consume all these traumatic things and they don't know where to go, and they're just carrying it in their own hearts, and they get to a place where they are just constantly feeling this anxiety and feeling emotionally exhausted and depleted. You might start losing trust in people all of a sudden, and we're yelling now at the phone, and sometimes you see those people in the comments with just some like interesting way of looking at life, and they just passionately fight for other people, certain things like beyond more than that person is offended themselves, those kind of things. It's a very interesting way that it kind of like manifests, and this is why like professionals who work in sort of trauma need like a lot of supervision, reflection, and a lot of recovery, not because they're incapable people, but because they're actually human. We are designed to have that empathy. So here are some of the few signs that it might be vicarious trauma that you're experiencing. You carry other people's pain way long after that you've left them, right? That's one. You struggle to switch off like completely emotionally. You feel emotionally numb or disconnected. You become quite cynical or lose hope. You start avoiding people because you're emotionally exhausted. You become quite hyper vigilant and constantly finding yourself that you expect something better to happen even though you are in a very sort of a safe place. Your sleep is like affected because you're replaying those experiences in your mind and in your dreams, in your vision, in different parts. I remember, I think it was one of these celebrities, he said that he quit social media after somebody shared something. I don't remember what it was. And then he clicked to them. It's like, no, I don't think we're meant to know about people's life the way that we know them now. And I remember I've seen somebody in the comment section in some random one, they're like, I would have been fine not knowing what I've just found out. It's like we are privy to people's lives, people's pain, people way that it hurts us so badly. I remember a time when I was watching this movie. I think it's called like Tomorrow's Land or something like that. And I remember a part of the sorry, spoiler alert. A part of the movie, we get to see that we were reflecting, or the human beings are just reflecting what they have actually seen, not because that there was an experience of quote unquote the world ending and stuff. So you can say in some sense that type of vicarious trauma and so forth. But I don't mean to laugh. I'm just saying it's just a ridiculous analogy for me to share, but it kind of makes sense in this sense. So sometimes people call it, burnt out, and sometimes it is burnout, but often it comes from a chronic place of constant stress. Vicarious trauma comes from repeated experience, exposure to other people's sufferings and whatnot. The answer isn't necessary to sort of kind of stop caring, because that doesn't work either. That's not a natural part of your body. That's why we're not sociopath or psychopath or narcissist, all the three antisocial behavior, but we're human being at the end of the day, and we have feelings. The answer is to learn to care wisely. Healthy empathy has like boundaries. You are called to support people, not to absorb them. Pay attention to what you are actually consuming every day. Create space for recovery. Talk to trusted people. Reflect, pray, exercise, rest. And if you are carrying significantly emotional weight, don't hesitate to seek actually professional help. Looking after yourself isn't actually selfish at all. It's what allows you to keep showing up for others without losing yourself. And let me highlight this. One of the biggest misconceptions is that compassion has no limits. But even Jesus withdrew to a very quiet place to pray and recover. Every time, he would give, he would go into some place to recover from all this, the pain that he observed from people. If we never sort of create a space to process what we are carrying, eventually what we're carrying begins to carry us. The goal isn't to become sort of less compassionate or empathetic. The goal is to remain compassionate for the long term, because you can't pour out from a cup you'll never allow yourself to refill. Now, if this video resonated with you and is given a language, a name to something that you've been feeling. And maybe you know someone who works in healthcare and social work, or just in general people who are experiencing these particular things. Share this video with them and make sure, if it's really sort of not manageable, support them to seek professional help. Do not forget to subscribe. If you are new here, you are much welcome. And if you are an old subscriber, thank you so much for staying with me and hearing this topic today. Comment in the comment section. Tell me what are your thoughts and your feedback. Looking forward to see you in the next video. Bye.